I've been spending some time with Graffiti Kingdom again lately. Its story isn't particularly deep, not taking itself very seriously outside an isolated scene or two, but I always get caught up in one exception. Pastel, the sort of mascot character with her face and voice all over the game.
Graffiti Kingdom. That looks done.
Pastel has a backstory, but compared to everything else, it's pretty between the lines, and some things are just left tantalizingly ambiguous. Now, my thoughts on these things might be digging way too deep, or maybe everyone else thinks they're obvious. It's really hard to tell when approximately one person has ever expressed interest in this game's story online. Well, seeing as you're here, I want to talk about two things. First, what we can make out of Pastel's story from all the hints we're given, and second, perhaps a bit more eccentrically, about her being a box dog, which gets really messy really quickly when you stop to think about it. Naturally, both of these will entail spoilers for this obscure 20-plus-year-old Japanese PlayStation 2 game. Alright, let's start with what we can figure out about Pastel's story. So, we're not going to walk through cutscenes in order or anything, but the opening naturally sets the stage for a lot of stuff, so let's start there. Our protagonist, Prince Pixel, finds two hidden rooms under his castle, one with a sealed graffiti wand and a sealed away pastel, and another with a devil, Medium, sealed away over a millennium ago by graffiticians, warriors wielding graffiti powers bestowed by God. Pixel takes the wand and Pastel is unsealed. She says the seal on the wand was broken, weird since nothing was visibly sealed about it, but maybe breaking that seal is what unsealed her too. Pixel also accidentally unseals the devil as Pastel tries to stop him, and some odd questions are raised as Medium says he lured Pixel here. Was he conscious this whole time? Was Pastel conscious inside a wall for 1,000 years? Anyways, the devil takes over the kingdom along with a bunch of other demons. The main takeaway from this scene seems to be that Pastel was sealed away underground with the devil after his defeat long ago. Exactly how she got there is most strongly implied by her relationship with the power of graffiti. So, Pastel is literally introduced alongside the graffiti wand. She's thrown off by Pixel not knowing what a graffitician is.
Huh? A graffiti what?
Oh, great! You break the wand seal and you're not even a graffitician? Tell me you're joking.
I guess 1,000-year culture shock since people today see graffiti as a myth, but she offers to teach him about it. The most unambiguously important part of this scene is how flagrantly Canadian Pastel is.
Pixel, I'm sorry, that's the wrong name for you. Only chance to defeat him, and if we don't, the whole world's going to be over.
The second most important is its hilariously bad editing.
Look, I'll give you one of my special graffiti creatures instead. Here, stick this on.
Like this?
Thirdly, though, Pastel explains how to use the graffiti wand and provides one of apparently multiple graffiti creatures of her own that can be transformed into. If we assume Pastel created said graffitis herself, it's already apparent she's a graffitician, but it's also confirmed further when a de-transform ray briefly turns her human later on, and near the end we straight up see her with a wand of her own. Speaking of which, what do you mean the graffiti wand? You have tons of them? The legend says multiple people had graffiti power? Why does yours look different? Did God give customized wands and then generics for people to use later? Why put just one wand out in the room she was sealed in? Where are those wands that she's not in box dog for? Anyways, Pastel thus appears to be one of the graffiticians that sealed away the devil so many years ago, running around as a graffiti creature. A box dog. In fact, nothing outside the legend in the opening ever directly corroborates the claim that more than one graffitician sealed away Medium. Either she actually worked alone, or she just drew the short straw to be sealed away for potential eternity while everyone else just goofed off. The game's ending has her try to seal away Medium again, saying she'll up the seal this time to clarify she's done it before.
I'll up the seal this time so that some kid won't come in and break it again.
Specifically, she says it's her responsibility to act as a key to the seal. What, to lock it? And one can wonder if she served a similar purpose last time. though she seems sealed with the wand, not with medium. Now, naturally, she's met many demons before, she's already had a devil-defeating adventure, but there are some complications here. To start off, Pastel knows some specific things about some specific demons. Obviously medium, sure, but she also recognizes his son Tablet, for instance. She definitely isn't acquainted with everyone, like Nis clearly not recognizing her, or Easel being unclear whether he just has a weirdly strong reaction to seeing a dog, or is surprised to see her again.
Welcome to the Wild West, son, and... dog?
But Aquila is an intriguing case. She seems to already know that Pastel is in a transformed state, and expresses interest in seeing her turn back. But why?
I took away her power to change into a graffiti creature. Well, this should still be quite entertaining to watch.
For a random graphitician you don't know, I don't see why seeing their human form would be that exciting. But maybe if you already knew they didn't want to be seen as human? I'm getting ahead of myself. The big one is Palette, which Tablet knows she has a history with. When asked if she knows this demon, she non-committally answers sort of yes, sort of no. But she shows clear concern when told a fight with Palette is coming soon, and nothing seems to indicate that it comes from fear of how strong she is either. Palette actually kidnaps Pastel later, but when we next see them, they're talking about the good old days over tea. Granted, it's not clear how earnest Palette's darling Pastel and dear friend are when demons tend to be so faux affable, but one could see the game drawing a parallel between the two princes, Pixel and Tablet, and these two, Pastel and Palette. In fact, it makes me wonder if Pastel was a princess herself, especially with all her propriety and calling herself a lady. In any case, maybe these two ended up friends the way Pixel and Tablet eventually did? In the end, here's what I think we can infer about Pastel's whole story. Over 1,000 years ago, she and maybe some others were granted graffiti to defeat and seal away medium. She may or may not have been a princess like Pixel, she certainly met a couple of the same demons, and she was acquainted with Palette in particular. Did she also have a box dog with her? She actually has a yellow one with her in Versus mode, but that might just be an imitation of Pixel's model in a non-canon setting. Either way, she sealed herself away with medium and a graffiti wand, be it to strengthen the seal, to advise whoever next took up the wand, or whatever else. Then the seal's broken when the story starts, and things go from there. Also, Pastel totally lied about being able to restore the castle.
Will the castle return to normal if we defeat him?
Sure it will.
Oh.
Well, I can rebuild it, but to its original form would be impossible.
That's all a fun story, to be sure, but it really just sets the stage for what really keeps grabbing my attention with her. What comes to mind when I say Pastel? The graphitician? Or the box dog? The answer is almost certainly the latter. Of course, this video and the game proper have primed you by showing you the box dog way more. But the box dog's prominence applies in-universe too. We only briefly see her as human twice in the whole story, partly obscured each time too. Now, we can see her clearly in one drawing and in Versus mode, but both of these are outside the story after completing the game. I just want to pose a question. Why? Why is Pastel first and foremost a box dog? Why does she use this form so much more? To try to get an idea, I'll start with when she is and isn't a box dog. Okay, beginning with something obvious, Pastel spends most of the game clinging to Pixel's back in box dog form. One could argue that this is just for convenience, since she doesn't have to run around everywhere. Though, why does she never help him more directly? Does she not want to fight? Does she not want to change forms to fight? Does she not want to admit she's a graphitician by transforming? Since she has her own graffiti to give Pixel for fighting, not to mention that it's pretty good, that would all be pretty odd. Or maybe she just wants Pixel to clean up his own mess, I guess. Anyways, she's also a box dog when relaxing with a friend. Is it that she's more comfortable in this form? Is being a box dog what relaxation looks like for her? Or maybe she's just usually been in her graffiti form when she's been around demons. I suppose that'd explain Aquila being interested in seeing her de-transformed if she's never seen her as a human. That reminds me, actually. One of the only 2 times she's become human is by force. And astoundingly, she manages to change back nearly immediately before actually reacting. It's like she switches to the box dog form so automatically that she does it before she's even fully lucid. The other time she's human, it appears she has to be. She's using her wand to seal away medium, which she presumably can't do in graffiti form, because every time you've seen someone transform with a wand, the wand disappeared. She quickly changes back to a box dog when she hears Pixel coming and tries to seal herself in, but it's not completely clear why. Does she somehow need to be a graffiti creature to be sealed? Does she prefer to be sealed as a box dog? Why? So that she appears as a box dog on the wall? So that she's a box dog if the seal's broken? Is it just so Pixel doesn't see her as human, even though he already has? And almost all of these questions apply to why she was sealed as a box dog the first time around. There's one last situation I want to bring up. The epilogue. There's no more adventure to be had, there's no more saving anything, no living in a wall, just living a regular life. And what form does she do this in? A box dog. But what does Pastel herself have to say about all of this? It seems she has a much easier time saying what she isn't. She consistently takes offense at being called a dog despite her box dog appearance, for instance.
I told you I'm not a dog!
And likewise for being called a demon, despite seeming to get along with one.
I told you I'm not a dog or a demon!
The closest she ever gets to explaining herself, in fact, is when Pixel says she's clearly not a human.
Well, look at you. You're not human, that's for sure.
Okay, look, this guy's is... Oh, never mind. But just remember one thing. I am not a demon. Understood?
Okay, sure.
Referring to her appearance as a guise is interesting in that it acknowledges that she can take on other appearances, but compared to a word like disguise, is fairly neutral about its purpose and how normal it is for her. What she focuses on, though, is that she's apparently earnestly more concerned about not being called the wrong thing than actually being called the right thing. I also can't skip over how odd it is that she declines to correct Pixel, saying that she's not human. The only I ams we get out of Pastel are lady and girl.
I'm a lady! That's because I am a girl. Did you think I was...
Not a huge help. I've already brought up the lady thing, but we should start from the top for the girl matter, because this is actually the most direct confrontation of the question of what Pastel is. Aquila fires a transformation disabling ray, and Pastel takes it for Pixel. I love how he immediately goes from concern to holding her in place to protect himself. Anyways, as mentioned before, she's back to the box dog form real quickly, and actually doesn't acknowledge becoming human at all.
Huh? What are you talking about? Anyways, you have a demon...
After a quick scrap with Aquila, Pixel asks about what happened back there.
Just a while ago, I think you turned into a girl or something.
Pastel appears to deliberately misinterpret the question to derail the conversation.
That's because I am a girl. Did you think I was a boy?
Pixel clearly meant girl as in human, which Pastel twists into just female. When Pixel corrects her, she actually cedes and acknowledges the detransformation, but switches to try to make the question sound unreasonable.
No, that's not what I meant.
Then what did you mean? You want me to turn back into a girl and climb onto your back?
When Pixel backs down, Pastel, having gained control of the conversation, immediately ends it.
Well, I'm too shy for that.
I thought so. Now that we got that cleared up, let's keep moving.
And After all this investigating of why Pastel is always a box dog, why she never calls herself human, and why she never says what she is in her own eyes, she gives us what's probably the most definitive conclusion we'll ever get.
Isn't there something you want to tell me?
No, there isn't. Come on, go!
And apparently, there really isn't. There never is something she wants to tell Pixel about this. Or us. Maybe it's just none of our business? Maybe that's the answer? Whatever it is that's going on here, she just keeps it to herself. I have to admit, between these two topics I've talked about, this whole box dog thing interests me way more. Maybe specifically because there's no clear answer, so one can only watch the cutscenes and wonder, but I thought this underrated game deserved a little talking about it. There are definitely caveats to everything I've said here, of course. This reading is all based on a very lackluster English localization in particular. I could probably follow this game's story just fine in the original Japanese, but I want to be confident enough to examine all the little nuances I looked at here. And in the end, maybe I'm reading this all way too deeply. I seriously doubt this question was supposed to generate so much interest. Maybe Pastel's just always in her more marketable form because this is a game that wants to be marketable. Maybe the creators just thought she was cuter or funnier like this. And maybe there are even mundane explanations for all these things she says and does. Or maybe Pastel's just a puppy girl, I don't know.